Welcome to the Solemn Vanguard channel. Today we are doing a premium Great Nature deck profile. Now people have been waiting for this for so long. Reason that I kind of postponed it was because I really wanted it to be max rarity. As max rarity as can be. As you can see, we have the world's Isabelle promos here, not Asuka rare, because that's technically maxed. And we also have the beautiful Great Nature pin right here. This beautiful Isabelle mat, which you can get at zerodamagegaming.com, by the way. You can use the code Solemn to get some percentages off. And there's one more thing to make this profile max rarity. And that is this one-off card right here. This is, yeah. There's only one in existence, so that's max rarity, right? This is the Kara Expo Great Nature Clan Leader card. Special thanks to Albert from WCC for getting it, and then Quinlan from Vision for shipping it to me. This was quite a ride to get this here. This will be very nice in the office. And so yeah, now we have a completely maxed out Great Nature Premium deck, right? Without further ado, one thing you need to know about Great Nature Premium is that there's actually 3 very distinct, very different builds that all work, in my opinion. That is the Leopold build, which we already knew and just got better with the new set. There is the Isabelle build, which is the one we're doing today. And then there's the new Hamster Grade 3. I keep forgetting his name. Something Hamsuke, the double rare. That is also a build by itself. And all these 3 decks can be really good, but all in their own way. So today we're doing Isabelle. If you want to see Leopold and the Hamster, let me know. So starting off with the grade 3s, we have 4 Isabelle. Now why Isabelle? There's 2 reasons. First of all, her first skill makes all of your mills go off, regardless of what happens. This is only relevant because of one play, and we'll get to that. But the second skill is actually better than people first realized. So when you think of Leopold, you ride it, and then you have about a 66% chance, basically 2 in 3, which is the amount of normal units you run, to get your check top 4 call 2. So that's a 66% chance. Ish, 60, 70, whatever. We're gonna keep saying 66 to get a +2 to field. Now, if you rewrite it, okay, you have even more, but whatever. Games sometimes don't last that long. Let's just keep it nice, 66, whatever. Isabelle, on the other hand, is a 100% chance to add something to your hand if your opponent is at grade 3. So if you are the second to ride, you can ride her, Soul Blast 1, mill, and since you haven't strode over her, you are still just getting that skill and getting that card to hand no matter what is milled. So you can add a really good piece, maybe a PG, maybe a heal, whatever happens, happens. So when you ride her, not only do you get XL2, which then draws you a card, you also use her skill, which draws you another card. So she's a confirmed +1 to hand of her skill, whereas Leopold is a 66% +2 to field, and sometimes the targets you find aren't even things you want to be calling, so even then it's a bit iffy there. So in that sense, Isabelle has its value. I like to call her Pot of Greed for that reason, because it's a 1 card that turns into 2 because of the excellent skill. Now the real reason, however, for actually running her is the next card I'll be showing you, and that is 2 Mary Martin. So this card is the sole reason that we're running Isabelle. Isabelle makes it so her skill goes off both ways, regardless of which you trigger. So in your opponent's turn, you can call this card with Almirage and then suddenly blow up a column of your opponent. So essentially you have a Denial Griffin, but inside Great Nature. So that's basically that little engine right here. It's definitely strong. It's like more defensive than Leopold, let's say, whereas Leopold has a really good aggro turn where on your first grade 3, right, you just ride it and you bash, which is something Isabelle just can't do at all. Isabelle really has no point in riding up first. So you really have to fight that grade 2 game, and that can be hard from time to time. Regardless, you do have this little defensive play if you have access to it. Then we have 2 Rhino, obviously still very strong for your Zoa combo, and apart from that, you can also just make it beefy with Mana Garmer or Polaro, make it restand. Still very strong, and as you know, this deck can actually fetch its grade 3, so we can get away with these 2-offs. Speaking of getting away with it, we also have 1 Big Belly, which is just a searchable Crayon Tiger. Then we have 4 Compass Lion. This guy will retire, which then triggers your Mike Saburo. It's also an 11k body, which is very strong in your grade 2 game. I prefer this one over Bicolor Baku, because Bicolor Baku can't become successful, meaning if you have a rear guard that's boosted by something and you hit a critical trigger, you cannot put it on that rear guard or you will go in the success state not trigger a retire, and thus lose your Mikesaburo effect. This card can't do that. Apart from that, Bicolor Baku can also not trigger on your Mana Garmer turn, because again, you'll be successful, meaning if you need to trigger a mic on a Mana Garmer turn, you can't, whereas Compass Line will always do that. Next up, only 3 Crayon Tiger. Now this one, I will say this deck is very teched out. I'm running a lot of weird text and I just really like trying out in Great Nature. Some new cards, some synergies within new cards and the old cards, and so therefore we're now running very limited good cards like Rhino and this. Now I could definitely understand if you want to bump this up to 4 again, maybe I will do the same. I don't know, I'm just trying things out right now. It does absolutely nothing in the Grade 2 game, but again on your Stride turns it is very, very strong. It does however also do nothing on your Zoa turn, so that's another argument to maybe not maximize on it. I don't know, up to you. I think 4 is probably good. Maybe you can cut something in the deck. I've been liking this so far. Next up, this boy. Now this card is very, very strong and people, I don't know, seem to overlook it. It's essentially Rectangle Magus, but it doesn't stack. TB1, Soul Blast 1 when placed, check top 2, add 1 to hand, mill the other. Then he gets 5k for his other skill. So you're essentially digging for better stuff. Gives you a better early game, digs for pieces you may need. Overall, I just really like the consistency buff. Next up, I'm running 1 Père Noir. This card has been surprisingly interesting. Essentially, this deck can mill its pieces by accident, and I don't like that. So what will happen is my Rhino will die, whether it's by milling or by Crayon Tiger's retire or anything like that, killing it. Then I'm out of Rhinos for some reason, maybe one is in damage, and I'm ruined. So I'd rather than use Père Noir to send back the Rhino, or maybe a Big Belly, maybe a Mary Martin, maybe an Isabelle, and then I can fetch it out with Mikesaburo again. Apart from that, if you're playing this long grind game, sometimes the 2 extra cards in deck can be the difference between being able to swing with Vanguard and not being able to swing with Vanguard. Interesting tech. Once you get to a deck out state, you will probably have reached it already, so it's fine at 1. You can cut it down to 0 if you don't think your games will last long. I've just been liking it so far, because this deck can grind quite well. You can build really insane hands after a while, and so then you could potentially deck out, especially when you get to double Spangled and stuff like that. Drawing 12 cards in a turn can, you know, lead to deck outs. Next up, 4 Stride Fodder. This is pretty new for me. The reason for it is that all of our grade 3s are insanely strong. Rhino, I don't want to discard for Stride. Isabelle, I don't want to discard for Stride. Mary Martin, I don't want to discard for Stride. Big Belly, I don't want to discard for Stride. All these cards that I don't want to discard for Stride, that's why I want to be able to discard this instead. Apart from that, it can also search you a Big Belly if you care about that. But yeah, this just makes the deck more solid. Having to throw away 2s and 1s and stuff is just really bad. Makes the deck way more fragile, and this has been pretty solid. Next up, we have 4 Mikesaburo. This card fetches you any grade 3 you want, meaning either your Denial Griffin Girl or your Rhino or your Big Belly, and that's always cool to have. Also gives you solid grade 2 game because your pieces replace themselves. If you want, you could also run Dog Bill to do the same thing. More grade 2 gamey and less tech-based, let's say. Next, we have 3 Monoculus Tiger, of course, very strong for the Zoa combo. You still have to manually draw into it. It's also 10k shield, which is nice. We tend to run a lot of 5k shields because a lot of our old grade 1s are really strong and a lot of our new grade 1s are really shit in this clan. But this is one of the few that actually works well. Finally, 2 Label Pangolin. This deck uses quite a bit of soul, also quite a bit of CB, and so that's nice to have. If you don't run into resource issues, or again, you think you'll be having shorter games, maybe you can cut this because you won't be using all of your resources. 4 Donkey. Donkey is very cute. 2 Chameleon. 1 Frygate. Again, I like soul. 1 Donkey. Again, I like soul. This was me more so trying out if this actually helps my soul issue. I do like it quite a bit, but if you prefer more of a sturdy deck, you feel this is maybe too risky, too greedy, I get that. You could always change it into just more crits. Then we have 4 Cable Sheep, the most beautiful PG in the game. Look at this. Oh, not only is it Esuka rare, but like before that, it was already my favorite PG. It's, oh, beautiful. And then we also run 4 CC SC heals. Again, I like to get very greedy with the resources. If you don't think that's necessary, you can run V triggers instead. And then our starter. XL2 markers. You also need XL1 markers against certain decks. Stuff like Pale Moon Loop. Stuff like maybe DI, depending on the situation. Nubatama as well. So like you should stock up on XL1 markers. And then we have 2 Mana Garmer. Honestly, I usually only go into 1. It's often a good first stride, but again, in premium, you usually have to read the situation a bit more. It's not always the right call. Your other first stride can sometimes be Balaral, but Balaral is also just good for long grind games and also just mid game. Honestly, Balaral is almost always good. First Stride is probably the weakest point, because then it only gives you 4k power, unless you G-Guard into it. But even then, it's sometimes just the best option. Otherwise, it's the Mana Garmer. Gives you hand, drive checks, can even kill if you play things right, if you have the pieces for it. Then we have 1 GB8. I like GB8 because you will double Spangled quite a bit. If you don't know what double Spangled is, you G-Guard twice in a row with this after dropping your entire hand, and then you can draw basically double the amount of cards you dropped. So you drop 5, you draw 10 cards, you dropped 7, you draw 14 cards. So you get very close to deck out, but that also gets you very close to GB8, and more importantly, that also makes it so you have a massive hand, which you can then throw on this, and then this thing becomes just disgustingly gigantic. Again, grind games exist, and I don't know, it's just a really insane card if you reach it. It's also like, since Mana Garmer and Balaral put in so much work as singular strides, we have the room to run this, in my opinion. Then we have 1 Fernigas. This card is really good against Link Joker, because you can clear your own board and then plus from it, and then they can't really lock as easily. Then you just Zoa them and you kill them. It can also be useful against DI if you're just playing the past turn game and you want to get rid of some cards that aren't very good shield, maybe draw into better shield instead, things like that. Then we have 1 Sea Breeze, very relevant. I still don't know how the hell people are trying to argue this ever. Being able to randomly turn on GB can win you a grade 2 game. You can randomly just win on a Sea Breeze. This deck can do it, Luard can do it, Neo can do it, plenty of decks can do it. Then we have 1 Zoa, obviously Zoa for the Zoa combo. Rhino boosted by Monoculus is unguardable, 99 is practically unguardable, 99k wins you the game, GG. 1 Ardillo, just a big G-Guard, it's almost always big. 1 Sankalpa, bigger G-Guard, but you need something on field and you need to pay a CB, which you can't always do. 1 Kundalini, counter charges out of nowhere. Sometimes people just don't know that you can do that, or they don't see it coming, or they forget, or you know, they just have to attack and then you get your CB back. 2 Almirage for a Denial Griffin play. Technically you won't really do it more than once very often, so the second one is like debatable if you want another one. And then double Spangled to do your double Spangled plays, and that way have ridiculous hand, survive through anything, and then just murder people. So that was my max rarity Great Nature premium deck right here. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. If you want this beautiful playmat, you can get them at zerodamagegaming.com. Subscribe to this channel and I will see you soon. Ciao.